Chapter 14. Parliament, symbol of democracy. Reading objectives. Features of the parliamentary government. Functions of the parliament. Lok Sabha, House of the People, Speaker. The Rajya Sabha, Council of States, the President. The Vice President. The Prime Minister. Council of Ministers. The Constitution of India provides a parliamentary form of government. President is the head of Union Executive and Prime Minister is the head of Cabinet, Council of Ministers. The role and the function of Parliament assume great significance in democracy. The term, Parliament, is usually associated with the British system of parliamentary government, a system which has influenced the development of representative assemblies in many parts of the world. Enrich yourself. Qualification and disqualification of a member. In order to be chosen as a member of the Rajya Sabha or the State Legislative Council, a person must not be less than 30 years of age. Other qualifications are the same as that of a candidate for the membership of the Lok Sabha or the State Legislative Assembly is. He or she should have attained the age of 25 years. He or she should not be holding an office of profit, other than those of minister or deputy minister. He or she should be of sound mind. He or she should be an undischarged insolvent. He or she should be a citizen of India. He or she should not have any disqualifications under any law made by Parliament. Disqualifications. The Representation of People's Act disqualifies a person from the membership of a legislature if he has been found guilty of certain election offences or corrupt practices in election. If he has been convicted and sentenced to transportation or to imprisonment for not less than 2 years. If he has been dismissed from government services for corruption or disloyalty to the state. Features of the parliamentary government. The parliamentary government is also known by two other names. These are responsible government and cabinet government. It is called cabinet government because the actual power of executive is exercised by the cabinet. The cabinet itself is responsible to, and removable by, the legislature. Hence, this system is known as responsible or parliamentary government. A prominent feature of parliamentary government is that its executive is divided into two sections of parts: nominal executive and real executive. Constitutionally, all executive powers are vested in the head of state. He may be a monarch, as in Great Britain, or president, as in India. The entire administration is carried out in his name, but not by him. The Cabinet, or the Council of Ministers, performs all the administrative duties of the titular head. The Constitution of India, which came into force on the 26th of January 1950, provides for a bicameral parliament consisting of the President and the two houses known as the Council of States, Rajya Sabha, and the House of the People, Lok Sabha. Functions of the Parliament. The role and function of Parliament assume great significance in view of the basic principles and assumptions associated with parliamentary democracy. It has the following functions: controlling the executive. A very significant function of Parliament is to exercise its control on the Council of Ministers by way of holding it responsible for its acts of omissions and commissions. Law-making. Law-making is the primary function of any legislature. The Parliament of India makes laws on all matters included in the Union List and Concurrent List. The state legislature share with the Parliament the power to make laws from the Concurrent List with its prior permission. Controlling the finance. The Parliament, particularly The Lok Sabha exercises substantial functions in the domain of finance. The legislature of any responsible system of government has to ensure that public funds are raised and spent with its consent and control. Raising deliberations. As an organ of information, the Parliament has a formidable role to play. All the important administrative policies are discussed on the floors of the Parliament, so that not only the Cabinet gets the advice of the Parliament and learn about its lapses, but the nation as a whole is enlightened about serious matters of public importance. Constituent functions. Parliament is the only body, under the Constitution. A proposal for amendment can be initiated in either House of Parliament. Electoral functions. The Parliament has some electoral functions to perform. It takes part in the election of President and Vice President of India. It also elects various members to its committees, and the presiding officers and deputy presiding officers. Judicial functions. The judicial functions of the Parliament are no less significant. It has the power to impeach the President, the Vice President, the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. Lok Sabha, House of the People. The members of the Lok Sabha are normally elected for a term of 5 years. When the party in power loses its majority, the President may dissolve the Lok Sabha before the expiry of its term. In case of emergency, the term of the Lok Sabha can be increased by 6 months. Speaker. After the general elections are over, the Lok Sabha elects its chairman and vice chairman, popularly known as Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, respectively. Both are elected by the House from amongst its members. They conduct the business of the House, supervise the proceedings and maintain order in the House. The Speaker is generally from the ruling party but is supposed to work in an impartial manner. He can adjourn the meetings of the Lok Sabha. Resolutions or bills cannot be moved without his permission. He decides whether a particular bill is money bill or not. He can also suspend a member from the House for his misconduct. The Deputy Speaker works as the Speaker in the absence of Speaker. The Rajya Sabha, Council of States. The Rajya Sabha consists of 245 members. Of these, 233 represent states and union territories and 12 members are nominated by the President. Elections to the Rajya Sabha are indirect. Members are elected by the elected members of legislative assemblies of the concerned states. The Rajya Sabha is not subject to dissolution. 1/3 of its members retire every second year. The allotted quota of the representatives of each state is elected by the members of Legislative Assembly of the state, in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote. The nominated members are persons with special knowledge or practical experience in literature, science, art and social service. The Rajya Sabha is presided over by the Vice President of India. The President. Article 52 of the Constitution of India says that the President is the head of the Union Executive. The following qualifications are required to be eligible for becoming the President of India. He must be a citizen of India. He must have completed the age of 35 years. He must be qualified for election as Member of Parliament. He must not hold any office of profit under the Government of India, or the government of any state or under any local or other authority. There must be 50 proposals and 50 seconders for the President candidate. The candidate has to furnish a security deposit from 2,500 rupees to 15,000. Procedure. Article 54 and 55 provides for the procedure of election to the office of the President. An electoral college consisting of all the elected MLAs and MPs elects the President. The formula used for the election is states equals number of votes of on MLA equals population of the state upon 100 times of total number of elected MLAs. Center equals number of votes of on MP equals total number of votes of all MLAs upon total number of elected MPs. Powers. The President is entitled to the following powers. 1. Executive or administrative powers. 2. Legislative powers. 3. Financial powers. 4. Judicial powers. 5. Military powers. 6. Diplomatic powers. 7. Emergency powers. 8. Miscellaneous powers. Executive powers. These are the administrative powers of the President. All the executive functions are carried out in his name by the Council of Ministers. These powers include appointment and removal of the Prime Minister, other ministers, the Attorney General, the Controller and Auditor General, judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts of States, Governor of States, Finance Commission, Public Service Commission, the Chief Election Commissioner and other members of many other commissions. Legislative powers. He has the power to summon and prorogue the Parliament. He can dissolve the Lok Sabha. He can summon a joint session of the Houses of Parliament. He addressed the opening session of Parliament. He has the power to nominate certain members to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. A bill can become an act with the President's consent only. He has the power to issue ordinance when Parliament is not in session. Financial powers. His recommendation is necessary for introducing a money bill in Lok Sabha. He keeps control over the contingency fund of India. He causes the presentation of the budget in the Lok Sabha. He appoints Financial Commission, determines the share of income tax to the states. Judicial powers. The President appoints the Chief Justice of the Union Judiciary and other judges on the advice of the Chief Justice. She dismisses the judges if and only if the two houses of the Parliament pass resolutions to that effect by two-thirds majority of the members present. If she consider a question of law or a matter of public importance has arisen, she can ask for the advisory opinion of the Supreme Court. She may or may not accept the opinion. She has the right to grant pardon, to suspend, remit or commute the death sentence of any person. She enjoys the judicial immunity. Military powers. The President is the Supreme Commander of the Defence Forces of India. The President can declare war or conclude peace, subject to the approval of Parliament only under the decision of the Council of the Armed Forces Chief Staff, Military Secretary in President's Officer, Deputy Military Secretary. All important treaties and contracts are made in the name of President. He also appoints the judges of Supreme Court and High Courts, the chairperson and members of UPSC, and the heads of the armed forces. Diplomatic powers. All international treaties and agreements are negotiated and concluded on behalf of the President. However, in practice, such negotiations are carried out by the Prime Minister along with his cabinet, especially Foreign Minister. Also, such treaties are subject to the approval of the Parliament. The President represents India in international forums and affairs where such a function is chiefly ceremonial. The President may also send and receive diplomats, i.e. the officer from the Indian Foreign Service. The President is the first citizen of the country. Emergency powers. He has the power to proclaim an emergency on the ground of threat to the security of India. He can dismiss a government in a state under Article 356 and 365. He can declare that a situation has arisen whereby the financial stability or credit of India is threatened. Miscellaneous powers. He can refer any matter of public importance to the Supreme Court and frame rules for the working of Public Service Commission. He makes appointments of Official Language Commission and many other commissions and special regulations for Jammu and Kashmir states. The Vice President. Article 63 of the Constitution says that there shall be a Vice President of India. Election. His election takes place the same way as the election of the President, i.e. indirect election. Qualifications. The same conditions regarding age and eligibility as prescribed for the President are also applicable to the Vice President. Tenure. Normally, he enjoys the office for 5 years like the President. He can resign before that or can be removed by the Rajya Sabha with a 14 days notice and passing a resolution for his removal. Functions. No formal functions are attached to the office of Vice President. He acts as the President when the President is for any reason unable to attend to his duties. However, the Vice President cannot work as the Chairman of Rajya Sabha and the President at the same time. The Vice President discharges the functions of the Chairman when he acts as President. The Prime Minister. Article 74, 1, state that the Prime Minister shall be at the head of the Council of Ministers. Constitution does not provide whether a Prime Minister should be a member of either House of Parliament. However, in case a Prime Minister is appointed by the President from outside the House of Parliament, he can remain in office only for 6 months or he has to seek the membership of any of the houses within this period in order to continue as the Prime Minister. Tenure. Normally, the Prime Minister enjoys the office for 5 years. Powers. The Prime Minister is the keystone of the Cabinet arch. He possesses the key of the government. He is the real head of the government. He forms the Council of Ministers and recommends it to the President. The President normally has to act upon the advice of Prime Minister. He is the supervisor of the administration of the government. In short, the Prime Minister is the kingpin in the system of cabinet government. The Prime Minister is the real executive to aid and advise the President, who is the nominal head. Council of Ministers. The real executive power lies in the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister as its head. While the Prime Minister is selected by the President, the other ministers of the Council are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. The portfolios among the ministers are distributed by the Prime Minister only. Qualification. Normally a minister is picked up from amongst the members of either houses of the legislature. In case a non-member is made a minister, he has to seek the membership of either of the houses within 6 months of his becoming minister. Working. The cabinet works on certain conventions and principles as follows. The President acts only as the constitutional head. The ministers other than coalition represent the majority party in the parliament. The ministers are collectively and not separately responsible to the Lok Sabha. Principle of secrecy is observed. Political homogeneity is observed. Leadership of the Prime Minister is taken for granted. Bureaucratic system. The Council of Ministers provides policies and decisions for running the government. These policies and decisions are implemented by a group of high cadre officers of the government, who are known as bureaucrats. These bureaucrats belong to various wings of the administration such as Indian Administrative Service, IAS, Indian Foreign or Finance Service, IFS, or Indian Police Services, IPS. The selection of these high-profile officers is made by the Union Public Service Commission, UPSC, through competitive examinations, personal interviews and group discussions. Every minister has a secretary or commissioner or a principal secretary to assist and advise him in the matters of his ministry. The hierarchy includes a joint secretary, a deputy secretary and an under-secretary. Bureaucrats are the real administrators of the government. Their efficiency is very important for implementation of government policies and decisions. They are in direct contact with the people and are responsible for the welfare and well-being of the people. Word to know: bureaucracy. A government that is administered primarily by bureaucrats are staffed with non-elective officials. Monopoly. The complete control of trade in particular goods or the supply of a particular service. Prohibition. The act of banning something being done or used. Integration. The act of combining two or more things. Communal. Involving a number of people in a community. Suppressed. To prevent expressing a feeling or an emotion. Delegation. A group of representatives or delegates.